my wireless operator, Bill French, who his face is in the book, he came out here just recently and said, I missed a big party in Derwent Water, where there's a plaque or something went up.
I think when V for Vera was over there last September, the pair of the Lancasters flew over a lot of those sites.
Yes.
It was well documented.
It was a shame though, they had 4 perfectly good Lancasters, and it was at the time when these things should have been going into museums, but after the film they took them to bits. And yeah.
During the filming, did you meet any of the actual dam buster guys from the raid?
Well, yes, I've got a picture of, and I can't think of the chap's name now, I've got a picture of Michael Redgrave, Richard Todd, and the station commander at the time. And they're all sitting down watching that final bit when he's saying, I'm very sorry about all the blokes that were killed. Group Captain Warfield, I think, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's the only one that I've met, and of course he was only the station commander.
Right, right.
Yeah.
What about Barnes Wallace?
Oh yes, well he was supposed to be Michael Redgrave was, but some time ago they upgraded the film, digitalised it or whatever, and I went down to London to see that, and I met Mrs. Barnes Wallace or whatever her name was. He wasn't there because he's dead.
Yeah.
And some of the others, yeah. That was quite nice. Yeah.
Have you been asked to help with this prospective movie with workshops and?
Well, yeah, they did contact me and say I was a survivor or something like that, and but they haven't. I think haven't they abandoned it? Yeah. I mean, what can you do with the film? The Dam Buster film was really like a documentary. I mean, apart from the fact you didn't know exactly what the bloke said, it was identical to my way of life in the Air Force, which incidentally I was never operational. But that way, when they'd come back from the raid, they came in, flopped on the bed and said, you know, what the hell, picked up their laundry. But it was, you know, it was so odd. What can you do? You could add a bit of sex in it and so on. But what can you do? It's a documentary. Pardon?
I think it's a Titanic movie, you know, they built it around a relationship.
Yeah.
There must be a lot of footage that was taken of making of the movie.
Oh, tons. Absolutely. Well, yeah. When I went down to London, that was in the film archives. So that would be on the south bank of the Thames, near Westminster Bridge. Yeah, there would be tons. Well, one of to make up the show, they showed some of the early experiments that Barnes Wallace was doing, and it was really hit and miss. You know, it's first of all he wanted to be up 120 feet, and it didn't work. Come down a bit more. I mean, we can all start that.
Second after the movie, what did you go back to flying?
Well, even during the moving, the Cold War was on, so I was flying Lancasters at the time, Lincolns rather, so they would do an exercise with using Lincolns, and I'd be on that, and then, you know, like too late to fly for the film company. So, yes, I went back to normal flying.
The other guys on the Lancaster cruise, were they all from your squadron?
No, I was on 97 Squadron, and 83 Squadron was also providing pilots. Yeah.
When you guys talked amongst each other, you know, during the filming or on set or whatever, were you guys feeling, you know, pretty privileged to be doing this, or did you just think it was another job?
No, just another job. The big privilege was T-bone steaks at lunchtime. Because, as I said, the Cold War was on. Britain was still suffering rationing, and they had an on-site caravan. So we went down to Scampton, where the real raid took off. And incidentally, Nigger's grave is still there. So at lunchtime they'd break, and we'd all have fantastic lunches. I don't know where the meat came from. I know where it went.
Dick, was the nigger thing big then, or has it just been blown all out of stupid proportion these days? the name and using
Yeah.
the word nigger for the dog.
Oh,
And
yes.
they'll talk about renaming it, and they can't do it in America because of the.
Yeah. No, I honestly don't know. I can imagine it was pretty emotional. I mean, Gibson was quite a chap, and his dog would have, I mean, it was emotional, there's no doubt about it. And of course, the grave was right on the edge of the perimeter track, and now they've got a wrought iron fence around it. So it's really like a monument to 617 Squadron.
Are there any more questions for Dick?
Oh, there's one other thing, of course. The raid was at night, as you know, so in those days the technology for making films dark didn't exist, so it was all a bit hit and miss. And we were doing that crowd scene outside the hangar when everybody's got their Mae West on and so on, just kicking around waiting. And they'd got some footage on, and a meteor taxis in. Which upset the film. And
Well, actually, what did you train in? Were you in the Ansons or?
well, I'll tell you a story. What was the story now?
Join the club.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've been redundant so many times that you can say whatever you like. I first trained on tiger moths and Harvards, and then when I became redundant and retrained under the pilot navigator bomb aimer system, I then trained on a thing called a provost, I think it was, which is a was it?
A provost.
Proctor, proctors, yeah. That had a cartridge starter, and at a dining in night we were pulling somebody's leg, and to get it started you pull on a lever, and there was a poem there, you pull on the wire, the pull it, a bloody great bang, and the engine's on fire. But that was that, and then I went on to Wellingtons, and then Lancasters, and then I was shipped off to fly B-29s for a little while, Washingtons, and then I went back to Lincolns, and then I went to, I was grounded for a little while as a station adjutant, which was fun, and I then went to Thorney Island on the south coast to fly Vampires. I heard the Vampires, or the night fighter version. We were training night fighter navigators, and then they got the NF-14 Meteor, which was fun. That's because of course they were brand new. Because the what was that triangular thing? Javelin. Javelins came on stream too early. Well, early, and a lot of these things had been refurbished, brand new. And they were lovely to fly. And then, I left the Air Force then.
Did you ever get into trouble? Were there any funny stories?
Did anybody know? A little while ago, there was a crash in England, a formation overflight. The aeroplanes had turned and climbed up like that, and somebody flew into somebody.
Oh, with the Mustang and the.
No, it wasn't a Mustang. It was fighters of some kind.
Okay.
But anyway, when we went over Derwent Water, Martin's aeroplane was on the starboard side, Gibson's supposed to be in the front, and somebody else on the left hand. So as we climbed up, I lost sight of the leader, and this tail came up sort of into view, and I pulled up, and it's an identical fault. You know, when you're turning, that I lost sight of him. I was too high, and he climbed up. That was frightening. And, yeah. That was when the chap was writing in about his chickens laying pregnant eggs or something.
Well, stop lying.
Dick, you flew Lancaster and Lincoln.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts of the Lincoln and the differences from flying the Lancaster?
Well,
Was there
to
much
actually
difference
fly
at all?
them, there's very little difference. They were bigger. They had a bigger wingspan by about 20 feet. They were designed to come out here for the Pacific War, which was fortunately not there. And
Well, they used a lot of them in Malaya. I mean, the Australians bombed
Yeah,
the shit
that's
out of
right,
Malaya and Indonesia.
Yeah, we were with the Australians on to Changi or somewhere. I went out there to supply the Cocos Islands with the London to Melbourne air race. So I met the Australians there. They were bombing the bandits just up country. But the Lincoln was a good aeroplane, pretty ugly with that bomb aimer's window. But they had 2-speed superchargers, and you could go up to 30,000 feet. And you know, we lost an aeroplane to a MiG fighter on its way to Berlin, just for an exercise. So the Cold War was not very nice.
Did any Lancasters ever get to Southeast Asia? Because some years ago I was speaking to a 75 Squadron chap, World War II in Australia, and he pitched a lift coming home.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they were sending Lancs out to the Southeast Asia before the end of the war to see how they coped in the hot weather.
Yeah. Well, there was I think they made up a thing called Tiger Force, and a lot of Lancasters were painted white in anticipation of coming out here. But it's a time of change. A lot of things happened and didn't happen and that sort of thing. Yeah, but there was Lancasters out here.
I just wondered how they coped operationally compared to the Lincoln had different engines, didn't it? So, I mean,
Yeah, they had they had these 2-speed superchargers and 2-stage, and yeah, they were. I mean, the serviceability was fantastic, really. I mean, there was no really trouble. So if they came out here for tropical trials, I'm sure they would have had no problems with them.